Well, you guys can start.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, so I go in and check it every month.
So you can remind me if I missed something.
That's the plan. It's just to see all of the wonderful things you posted. That's what I don't think she's here.
Just give me a second guess at myself. I feel better now.
We all set?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the public hearing for the Buckfield Community Resilience Partnership. We have Zach here from AVCOG to talk about kind of brainstorm what we might be able to use this grant for. And he's already kind of worked out what we put together from the last public hearing. And everybody, please make sure you sign in because we need that returning to the state too.
Sorry, I have to come closer to here.
Let's you want to get started?
Yeah, so did everyone get a chance to grab the handouts that we have? Perfect. So basically, I'll start off with who I am for those of you who don't know who I am. My name is Zach Goslin. I am the environmental coordinator for AVCOG, Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments, the regional planning office that supports the communities of Franklin, Oxford, and Androscoggin County. So my main role is sustainability in the region, from solid waste to climate change. So everything in between there, I kind of cover. So the main reason that I'm here tonight is the state of Maine has a program that is funded through the state budget, and it's called the Community Resilience Partnership. The Community Resilience Partnership is a grant program, again, through the state budget that can give up to $50,000 for a single community to apply for a variety of projects, which I'll go over in a minute. There's two pots of money for that. The first one is for service providers like myself to apply for money and help up to 5 towns get through the enrollment process. So to become eligible for the funds, there's a series of steps you have to go through in order to make yourself eligible for the funding. So that's AVCOG applied for that funding. We received it to help the towns of Buckfield, Avon, Minot, Wales, and Strong. So I'm working with 5 towns through Androscoggin, Franklin, and Oxford counties to help them through this and get them eligible for funding. So that's how I was able to be here today. So I've been helping the town get through those documents, take a look back, see what the town's been doing, and put those basically into paper format to present to you all, and for you all to get feedback as well. So that second pot of money that I mentioned is for implementation grants, which is the main focus of why I'm here to talk. Again, those are $50,000 no match grants that come directly from the state budget. It can go up to $125,000 if you partner with 1 or more communities. So for example, Sumner has enrolled previously. They used a different service provider, but they received their first grant. So down the line, if there was a regional project between Buckfield and Sumner, Buckfield, Oxford, all those towns, you get up to $125,000. All this money again comes from the state budget. This past budget season, they put $6 million to be allocated over 2 years. The last round of funding for grants, they gave about $2.4 million to communities. So it's quite a chunk, and most of them being single projects, so $50,000 to a single community. So over the course, like I said, there's a series of steps to kind of go and get the town enrolled. So all the documents there you have represent what we're working towards. So I wanted to start with basically a quick overview of the types of projects. So that's the list of community actions. It's the colorful one with all the different lines and everything like that. And this is just a checklist, but it's also on the back of that first handout, that dual-sided 1-page. It's also all the action items are on the back of that as well. This is just more of the in-depth project list. So there are 72 different project areas that the state has aligned with the Maine Climate Action Plan that you can apply for $50,000 no match. And it covers a variety of areas. So I'm just going to go through some of the strategy areas to give you all a better idea. So embrace the future of transportation. So that kind of plays into EV chargers, electric vehicles, things like that. And this document here is made to kind of evaluate what the town has already done for projects. So under that, the town has an EV charger, which is already a great step for that. So the town's work towards that doesn't mean they're not eligible for more EV chargers. It's just a good step in the right direction. They want to know everything that the town's been doing. So there's embrace the future of transportation, which also includes lowering your miles traveled, commuting to work, things like that. Broadband, bike pedestrian paths, things like that. Strategy area B covers modernized main buildings. This is one of the most popular through the program. It covers pretty much any energy efficient upgrade. So heat pumps, LED lights, geothermal, anything along those lines you can apply for the money for no match. It also is to advance the design and construction of new vehicles. So supporting different ordinances, solar ready roofs, things like that. Strategy area C, reduce emissions through clean energy innovation. Basically just looking at your energy usage as a town. That also includes clean energy adoption, solar panels, wind farms, things like that, as well as transitioning to clean energy. Again, all in the same lines of solar, which could be either town-owned or through a power purchase agreement. Strategy area D, grow jobs and protect natural resources. This is all about really the natural resources that are here. This town is forested. It's not really known for their economic growth and businesses, but more for what the natural resources have to offer. And this strategy area kind of plays into everything to protect that, as well as things like local food production, sustainability, clean energy, incentives for people to move here and begin things like that. Strategy area E, again, protecting the environment, promote natural climate solutions. This is anywhere from conserving land. It can be as simple as conserving land, increasing green space, which means planting trees, having a park, things like that, as well as dealing with the floodplains, right? So there's, flooding is a big issue right now. So strategy area E really covers different types of ways that you can mitigate going forward in the watersheds, in the forest, things like that. Strategy area F goes over community risks. So flooding, again, flooding is probably one of the biggest issues that everyone's faced this past summer. So strategy area F really talks about flooding, looking at mitigation plans, early warning systems. You can even develop a storm debris management plan with this money. So it doesn't have to be a big elaborate project. The real goal of this is to help communities build resilience through projects that they may not be able to get funded elsewhere. So federal funding is difficult to get, and it's tough for municipal staff to undertake a federal project with minimal resources, right? So this money, since it's state funded, can also be used as match for federal grants, but it gives that no match ceiling and a great list of projects that can be used, that can be used for. So still under strategy area F, it also talks about public health. This can be community outreach, community engagement, but also talking about things that create issues within a community like mosquito-borne illnesses, mosquito habitats, ticks, things like that that are exacerbated by climate change. Strategy area E, climate ready infrastructure. This is a big one because it can cover basically any critical infrastructure that is being affected by the extreme events that we're facing. So anywhere in strategy area G, we can talk about dams, bridges, culverts, roads, things like that. And strategy area H is engaging the main people. This can be through committees, education and outreach, various programs like that. It's a quick overview. There's 72 specific areas in here. And again, I could talk for an hour just about the 72 different actions. But this is more of an engagement meeting, so I don't want to talk the whole time. So just kind of quick of what I said, and looking through them real quick. Is there anything that, you felt the town has done within this list that has gone well, or if there's a project kind of that you're thinking of, or have thought of in the past, what does that project look like in your mind?
Well, I'd just like to say, I think our solid waste has been extremely successful. We were one of the first communities to join that place in Auburn where they incinerate waste.
Main waste energy.
So, right, main waste energy. So we are producing, energy has always been on our mind. So we're producing that. We then have the swap shop, which has a lot of volunteer people coming. As a matter of fact, it's not paid, it is people volunteer. So we get much less stuff that's thrown overboard. We have now got, have put in an installation that where you can put clean, used clothes that aren't wearable that can be made into insulation. And that is a nonprofit that picks that up. But we also take our fuel from, use fuel from the transfer station and transport it. So I think that energy-wise, we have really tried. We've been extremely successful, if I may say so.
That's very good. Do you feel like
But we should continue, and that's why I am supporting the geothermal. At least I'd like to look into it, because we are sitting, and we're all sitting on a vast amount of water. How far down we have to go, I don't know, but we now know. I didn't realize that Sandra has a geothermal at her home, so we have one. We also, I've been trying. I haven't been able to find out how many heat pumps have been installed. But I think I know of at least 6 homes and 2 businesses that have installed heat pumps. But just my knowledge, but I don't know that many people. So I think we have done a lot in the way of energy. And I would like to see us continue it, especially with this building. And one thing about geothermal, I'm just wondering, we'd have to have somebody come in and look at it. But how about doing it? The fire rescue building is in this lot. Even the churches, I just wonder if there might be some way of supplying energy, geothermal, that would reduce the energy costs. And even if we go with solar and wind, remember, they are flexible. They don't run all the time. So you do have to have something else, whereas the water deep in the ground is there. Anyhow, my thoughts.
I'm Peter Warwath. I wondered, I took it that in order to qualify for any grant money, and if you first more grant money, we would need to have some kind of is it just a discussion of options, or would there be sort of a starting plan, or at least a sense of the people here of what would make sense?
Yeah, so this meeting specifically is to get the community input. It's part of the requirement to receive the funding. Priorities, that's what we're here to establish. Whether it be so basically tying the community with the select board to make.
I've done a lot of work with energy conservation. It's my career. 8 years, studied it in heat loss analysis. And I would say that the very high priority would be making the lighting and the envelopes of the buildings as up to date as possible. Now with the building, I'm a firm believer in not just throwing money at things because they're supposed to be good. Like people's windows are always great. But I would say the most cost-effective things should come first, and they're homely, simple things like weather stripping and blowing in insulation. I took a house that I owned in South Portland only 8 years ago and had dense packed cellulose blown in the walls. Heating bill went down 50%. And it was just a fabulous return on investment. So I'd say building, if it has a return on investment, but, and I know it's a grant, but you try to get the grant dollars to produce as much good as they possibly can. So I think the envelope work, I don't know about heating system, because the main heating system here is the, was just replaced, right, Cameron? Yeah. That boiler.
Yeah, we replaced the oil with propane.
With propane, so. I love the idea of geothermal, I just don't think we have a place to put it right now. Or a high priority, item that you could use it, or maybe in the future with. One of the municipal buildings or schools or whatever, it'd be a great idea, because there's a great aquifer running near this river right out here. So,
Yeah, I think that's important.
that's another about the other, I think I would make the priority the municipal assets, as you say in here, and I think. The roads keep getting knocked up by rains and flooding, and I think it's getting worse because of the weather, so I. Just nominated priority, just having some kind of plan for the roads, not a huge plan, and paving's fabulously expensive right now, but fixing shoulders, for instance, so that the roads don't erode out at the edge. And there's been a lot of work, Public Works has done an admirable job of trying to clean up after the last big flood, but I noticed that you can all these towns here, the erosion of the road. Big expensive deal, and it's some preventative work. Wasn't too expensive. Those are my two suggestions. I don't believe in too long a list, because you gotta get started somewhere. If you start on 40 things that cost $2 million, you're gonna get stuck spinning your wheels, and you know.
Would you clarify for folks? Does the group of people need to decide on one project, or can there be several projects
Yeah,
that money is divided up?
yeah, so I mean, it's the grants for $50,000, you can do. One project, or you could do 5 projects for 10, you know what I mean, so that is not the issue. As well as you can keep applying for these grants as long as you're enrolled. So the grants are released 3 times every 2 years. So setting more priorities isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that's one thing we'll cover in a little bit is short-term versus long-term. So we can look at, even if we come up with 5, 6 priorities, what's feasible in the short term versus what's feasible in the long term. And again, these funds can be used as federal match. So, in the long term, if there's a big road project or there's a big assessment that you wanted to look at, and it's going to cost $500,000, feds require a 10% match, that could be your $50,000 match just from this grant. So the priorities, is definitely, I would say, short-term versus long-term. But I think that the more priorities and the more projects that we can generate now will help guide for the future. If that makes sense.
List,
Right, basically a wish list.
not necessarily.
Right. And one thing,
It's good to have a vision.
and you mentioned the building envelope, and I think that's a very important thing to mention because, if you could put in 20 heat pumps in this building, but if it's not insulated, if nothing's going the right way, all that energy is going to be lost anyways, and your electric bill is just going to triple, right? So I always suggest, I'm glad you brought it up, is if you are looking at energy efficient upgrades, use some of this money, 5-10 grand, to get an energy audit. Take this building, take the fire station, any other municipal owned buildings, and pay for the energy audit. And they'll break it down, numbers, pictures, and everything. They'll tell you where you need to look to increase, say, new windows. We did a project in Jay, they paid $50,000 just to spray foam insulate their roof with cellulose. It was one project, but in turn, that's going to save them money in the long run when they start adding energy efficient upgrades like heat pumps and things like that. So I'm glad you brought that up because I always try to make that a point if people are looking at heat pumps and things like that, to look at the building.
I totally agree on the energy audits because you just keep kind of flying blind unless you do that, or you're trying to use rules of thumb that don't always work. And so I think it's a terrific idea. I would guess that would cost in the range of $10,000 maybe for all the municipal buildings. But
Yeah.
heated, there's how many heated ones? This three, right?
1, 2, 4.
Or maybe 10,000, something like that. I mean, I would vote strongly for
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
that. And the guy, and, you know, that doesn't just look at one thing, windows and insulation. It looks at the whole picture, and ideally, what has the best return? Bang for the buck, would save the most fuel. I mean, it's really thin. In energy, a lot of prioritize things top to bottom and have the best return, the best savings.
What is our energy cost, would you say? For the fire station and this building combined?
Didn't put me on the spot. This building between the months of October and. When did it start getting warm this past spring? Through the cold months, this building burns about 500 gallons of heating oil, but we just switched to propane, so I can't tell you what that's gonna change to, but I mean, you can imagine 500 gallons a month times 6 months. It's a lot of money. I do have the numbers on a spreadsheet. I just have
2,000 a month, right?
Mhm.
A little under that. 12,000, cut a third of it, and you've saved 4,000 a year.
And that was with plastic on the windows last year. Because we don't typically heat these rooms. We don't. We maintain like 50 degrees in these rooms that aren't being used.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's just heating the town office and the historical society when they're there.
We don't touch it though.
Yeah, and because it's always hot up there because they get all the residual heat from.
The windows are a definite. I worked in this building for 20 years, we struggled. To keep it cool or keep it warm, and there are so many broken windows, we can't get the storm windows down. It's a priority, even if it doesn't go with this grant, need to.
There are literally windows in this building that the storm window is the window. Because the window's broken. I can call 3 of them right now.
I guess my thing, this building is a historic building. So I think I'm the only one in this room that went to school here. And I would hate to see anything happen to it. Not only did I go to school here, my great grandfather helped build this building.
Yeah,
So
Which I will say, there are contractors out there that I think historical significance is important. There's also other grant funding programs, say. If there's a different project, like there's a Belvedere grant, it's a historic preservation grant. We helped a town get one of those to update their electricals so they could then start adding the efficiency, LED lighting, heat pumps, things like that. So the historical integrity mixed with the energy efficiency piece is a very delicate line, but it can be done. Meaning, if you get new windows, they're probably not going to look like that, but you can pick a window, an energy efficient window that meets the best criteria for this building. Windows they 100% can be funded through this building, but then it comes into the play of, does it still meet the requirements to be on the historic registry, things like that. So, right, is it eligible? I think
It's eligible.
it's eligible. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for this type of stuff in a historic building. It just comes down to how much of the original integrity you want to maintain. And then finding a delicate balance in between that. Because if you go with insulation, it can be done, but the wall will come off, right? And you know what I mean? So it's just finding a contractor that can save that, and you know what I mean, is very important.
what do you mean, the walls that?
Well, so like if they blow it, then they can just go down in, but I've heard some more.
I'm lucky to have shingle sided because my house that I mentioned, just say half, has shingles, cedar shingle. They're very clever installers. They took a very sharp knife and cut shingles, drilled a hole, and flew in 3 places up and down. it worked perfectly, and they put them back, you couldn't tell.
So that would be,
Yeah.
that would be a way to,
Down here.
Yeah.
Very little, extra costs for carpentry, very little.
so that would be a way to keep the historical value while adding insulation to keep up with those.
This place listed, it would have to be listed on the preservation list to get grant.
Not for this grant, no. It just has to be
No,
town.
I mean, you mentioned this.
Yeah, the Belvedere grant, for example, is a grant that they require it to be eligible for. So it doesn't need to be on the historic registry, just deemed eligible for it. And then you can get some funding through that as well.
Yeah. It could be, okay.
Good point.
Any other kind of project ideas that anybody wanted to throw out?
I had mentioned last time after all the discussion about the flooding, and I agree with everything that's been said about the roads and the. Maintenance on the side of the road and the ditches and the culverts, however, I brought up. The state's. Bridge inspection report, and I didn't know if anybody looked at that since the prior meeting, and. On the list, I think it just said roads, somewhere I just saw road preparedness on this page. But it doesn't say anything about bridges.
Are you talking about the handout? Or,
Yeah, that one, just,
yeah,
it says road preparedness. But like the road on, the bridge on Sodom Road, I think, is the worst one, and I haven't been able to find the state. Even last year, since it's 2023, I haven't been able to find 2022. And I didn't know if anybody else had looked, because the last time I physically had the bridge report in my hand. I mean, we had some pretty poor to very, I mean, Bob's shaking his head because he remembers this.
Yeah.
So it's, roads, unless they're completely washed out. You can fill at least one side and have one lane and still get emergency vehicles through. But if a bridge washes out,
no, I put roads as vague.
we're calling.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I put road preparedness, but underneath that is the critical infrastructure. So I mean, bridges and culverts, I would say, can go in both of those categories. So I was just trying to be kind of like a vague overview, but yeah, but I agree. I myself, I didn't look at the road, but I looked at the dam inventory. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? There's a same thing with the dams, the critical infrastructure in general. If it were to look at something like that, it could be in the form of an assessment, hiring an engineer to look at the overall.
We already had the assessment from the state, the state inspection. So I get confused when you talk about the dam and North Pond. Because again, that's Buckfield Village Corp.
No, yeah,
We don't even get to vote
Yeah.
on their projects or anything unless you're one of the. I'm just gonna throw out a number, 68 people on the water district line or something. Don't hold me to the number, but
Resident.
yeah.
residents are within the district and so on and so forth. It gets very confusing, so.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that was just, like I said, I was just trying to do an overview of the type of critical infrastructure. So using that example, I wanted to talk, so they do list a couple roads in the emergency mitigation plan for the county that the town has identified. But I haven't seen that road list, so I'm gonna have to look that up. But that's, again, a great point.
Are you talking Oxford County EMA? Emergency Management Plan, Oxford
Yes.
County?
Yeah.
And then, so the thing would be, they would list our critical roads. And that list of roads would contain the bridges.
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That I don't know. I don't know if there's a separate portion of if they have bridges and then roads. I'm not quite sure. But they do list priority projects or priority issues from each town in that report.
So those prioritized projects they come from the municipality themselves.
Right,
So
okay.
that's what we report to that.
Yes.
That's what they include in the plan, and then they update it every few years. I don't recall there being any specific bridges listed on the current EMA plan for Buckfield.
No, I don't, like I say, I'm not sure on that. There was a specific road. I have it in here.
I know they did some work to that bridge on Paris Hill this past year. The state paid to fix something. They did something with the footers because there were issues with that, so that's been taken care of.
Yeah.
Obviously the one next to the former Buckfield Mall, that one's been replaced now.
Well, the one I think it's when 4 or 5 years ago. Some people proposed to shut Sodom Road down in the winter. And the big, I mean, this room was packed when they wanted to close that road. Primarily, the main issue was that rescue and fire used that road even in the winter time to cut through. I personally didn't want to close because I go to the Packard Trail in the winter time, in the summertime, and that's awesome. But that bridge there is a 1-lane bridge.
And it's developed.
And it's very, it's what?
It's being developed too. I think they're gonna, isn't there a subdivision out there? That's on a road where the land is.
Well, that's before the bridge.
No, but that.
Bob's currently looking at the-
No, it's after the bridge.
The only 2 bridge reports I've received since I've been here from MDOT, and one's Hammond Hill and the other one's Brock School Road.
Yeah, I don't see it in here.
Rock School Road.
Yeah,
It's like a box.
Oh,
I know, but they still send me the bridge reports.
yeah, it shows a nice
They do
picture of them
inspections.
having been replaced.
The other one doesn't look so good.
Then I would ask for clarification, because maybe I'm using the wrong word. So there's Scott Gal's old place, and then there's the bridge, and after the bridge, on the left-hand side would be Western Foothills, on the right-hand side. Would be the 300 and something acres that got cut into 40 acres, that's not technically a subdivision, but it's there, and people are already building there. So yes, the population is, and my question then becomes, maybe it's not technically a bridge, but a culvert. Although I don't see a culvert there, I see it as a bridge, but it is 1 lane. And recently, when the town just purchased winter sand, those dump trucks were coming in and out of there like crazy. And I'm just saying, and in fact, I think one of our town plows hit that bridge once.
So I do know, I don't know too much about the bridge reports, but they do have a culvert. DOT has a culvert assessment online and a map that shows all the culverts within a town and shows you they're basically great, similar to the bridge, similar to the dam one. So they have an online inventory that you can look at. It might be on there. That might be able to help you distinguish between bridge and culvert for that specific area at least.
Yeah, and I would hope some town public works or somebody knows if it's a culvert or a bridge.
Pretty sure that would be considered a box culvert, and even in by today's standards, it's a piece of concrete that sits over. I've never actually gone down the side to look at what it looks at, both sides. Weldon would probably have a better idea.
Yeah, I think it's the second.
The one on Allen
Which one
School
is it? Second one.
The one on Allen School was just a huge culvert. People use that all the time. And do you have any report on the North Pond Dam? Have you seen the state report?
Not, so the only thing I've seen is from the National Dam Inventory and it's at high risk. And it's. I know the structural integrity, I believe, is graded low,
Is
so
what?
it's graded low.
Oh, it
So
is
it's one of the at-risk ones that I saw.
That's what
um,
I wondered.
And again, this is just, so it's owned by whoever, but in partnership with them, you could still use some of this funding to do, if it was affecting the town. So as long as it's if the project sits within the town, whether it be the historical society or the water people, as long as they're on board and, are partners on the project, it can be done. So I just wanted to make that kind of clear out there. And it's tough, right? It's tough to get everyone on board for anything. But it is an option. So I did want to just throw that out there.
Don't say anything on this map.
Yeah, I could be wrong. But so there's so many different resources. Okay. Anything else on the 72 different projects? Did anybody want to add anything else?
Just have a question of, what the report out of this meeting gonna be, or the things that have been suggested gonna be put in the report? But I think even the dam. Is an issue, it's an issue.
Yeah, so the next document that I'm gonna go over it's called the self-evaluation for that exact reason. So everything that we talk about and all the research that I've already done previously in the EMA report and things like that come out of this, and that's what you submit to the state. So it's basically an overall report. So in this report, it has, well, we can get into that right now since that was my next thing. There's 3 different areas that they ask you to self-assess: minimizing risk and exposure to hazards, understanding sensitivity and building resilience, and then improving the long-term adaptive capacity. So that basically covers a wide range of very sometimes difficult to answer questions, but it will include everything that we talk about. So for example, the first question, I won't go again, I won't read through all of these, we don't have that much time, but. So question 1, again, under minimizing risk and exposure to hazards. Question was, has your community assessed the likelihood of various types of hazards or disruptive events? So I'm basically just reiterating some of these questions in here to get more feedback. So that would be the flooding on the certain roads. The North Pond Dam is at high risk. So all things like that are potential hazards within the community are going to be listed in here. And that's why the community engagement workshop is important, because if there's something, even if we missed it, or if there's a specific hazard, like that specific culvert, it's all important information to list in here. That way, not only does the state know, but as we move forward with these grants, they're listed in there as, at least we've looked at them. That makes sense. So that just talks about, again, the increased rain. One thing I found interesting was Buckfield was actually in moderate risk for wildfires versus everyone else was at low risk. So that was one thing that I included in there. But again, all this stuff, as we look at all this stuff, improving, understanding sensitivity and building resilience, even though you're moderate risk for wildfires, the town fire and EMS are quite prepared if they need to come in and assist in a forest fire. So they have the necessary equipment and things like that. So that's how you take a hazard or a potential risk in the community, and then you continue to work towards understanding the sensitivity, building the resilience, and then in turn, building long-term capacity. So that's really what this document is. So kind of anything that gets tossed out here, I'm taking notes. If anything was missed in here, I'll go back in, send a final copy for the select board, and that will be what gets submitted to the state.
May I just make one more comment about this building? We did mention it is an important community building. I mean, so much of what we do is held here.
That is an important piece.
It is a bridge with that, with concrete above it.
There we go.
Well, there we go. So another potential hazard. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go through a couple of these points. A couple things that I find interesting, and then I'm going to ask a couple questions, hopefully get some more input here. Again, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but raining, increased flooding, increased rain, in more intense snowstorms, all of those become issues. Whether it impedes emergency response time, cuts power, blocks roads, all of that in turn, it not only is a climate issue, but it's also a public health issue and a community issue. And that's why this program ties in all the Maine won't wait stuff, but also incorporates pieces that help you build community resilience. So for example, a piece in here could be updating a heating and cooling shelter for that type of thing. It could be as extravagant as that, or it could be establishing a peer-to-peer program to check on people at vulnerable people during those events. So there's completely, two ends of the spectrum in this program where it can be super simple, not a lot of planning needs to go into it, or it can be a big extravagant project. So basically looking at all the little things and big things, and then coming up with these priorities like we're doing now. It's a lot of different stuff, but a lot of it's repetitive. I know that out here, it's definitely mosquitoes are an issue. All the diseases that they carry could be an issue. Again, the wildfires. Oh, Fonts Road was one of the ones that I have listed in here. That was the one that we were talking about earlier. So that one's in here.
Yeah. This may help you in filling this out. I'll look here, so for number 6. Or. Where's the flooding ministries? Well, there was one of them about addressing back-to-back.
Oh, yeah, it is questions.
And what we did see is there's, when you have repeated flooding, Fonts Road gets washed out and we have other dirt roads in Buckfield and they get washed out for the first time in over 20 years when Public Works came in to rebuild the road. They reinforced it with other materials and the following rain events did not wash out the road when others were. They weren't able to reinforce all roads.
But the at-risk roads.
Right, and we saw that by doing that, it did make a difference. And that would be something that I would say we want to look at going forward is how when a road gets washed out, that when we rebuild it to do it in a way.
And that, again, that, all that stuff, I think could fall under here, there's, you know. Even under the projects. Policy is one of the things that could be funded through here, so. If you know, there is a policy you want to put in place for rebuilding back roads, like, for example, some not floodplain ordinance, but some people have like. If a washout were to happen or a flooding event, they have to build that house back to a certain standard. Same kind of idea, so if there's a policy in place. So if this road washes out and this road continues to be a problem, it has to be, you know what I mean? So that all stuff, and that's a great point to make, and I'll make sure to add that.
So that may be future
Right,
project.
exactly.
Following up on what Sam said, I mean, there has been a lot of good work to reinforce the roads. It just says that there are more to do, you know, it seemed like a real practical thing to put on the list would be some kind of prioritized list of where next. You know, the highest priority, you know, given budget availability, it couldn't be done all at once, obviously. But just the list, the simple list. You know, it's worst situations that, and you take those first.
Yeah.
I suggest that. I also wonder if we have never asked, do we have a disaster response plan for the town, opinion? Or things like closed roads, long tower outages.
We have our emergency management plan, which hasn't been updated in a while.
I mean, these things like temporary shelter and all that, has that ever been looked at?
Oh, I'm sure it hasn't been looked at in the past, but it hasn't been looked at recently.
Yeah, it gets evaluated.
Well,
The EMA,
Well, EMA, right, and they're going through or they just went through the process of updating the emergency management plan for the county. Within the last 6 months.
I would put that on the list, the updated emergency response for the management.
For the town specifically, right, yeah.
Yeah, for the town.
That during the ice storm, the fire department contacted every household in town. That was their plan.
Full and the school opened,
Right,
people to
and-
stay at the
In
school.
school, that's
and
right, school was open.
The showers and.
So why don't we, since that conversation's already happening, why don't we move on? I'm gonna go kind of to the first page of that self-evaluation sheet. And again, this is all the stuff in the self-evaluation is just looking back on different impacts for the town, but on the first page, there's really a good chance to get real community feedback. So I'm gonna go, there's 4 different kind of questions. The last question is basically priority is setting priorities. So first question, what are two things you think your community is doing well? So if anybody wants to start.
Energy, I mean, we've got a lot, I think. You know, with starting with main waste fuel.
Management of the local government is much improved in the last year or two. And no small thing, because we don't have a functioning government. Can't do very much.
Very.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Some other ideas that we came up with during the last workshop, supporting local commerce, like the farmers market. Which ties into local food production, as well as community involvement. So those are some things that the town came up with at the last meeting. Now we got local government, energy, anything else anybody feels is good. Beautiful.
I think we had mentioned there's improvements on the road, and I think it's important that the town gets credit.
Yeah.
Addressing some of these real serious problem related weather, extreme weather thing.
So let's go to, what are two areas that could be improved in the short term? So this kind of breaks down short term versus long term. So short term,
Building.
Envelope repair is audit, energy audit.
Energy audit, yes.
Well, I do make a very specific recommendation, say $50,000. I wonder if we could get a grant for the audit and then use the leftover funds after the audit to do the priority things in the audit to the extent money is available.
Yep.
Very specific.
Some other things that we came up with were measurable data, historical preservation and upgrades, as well as the culverts, roads and bridges, so critical infrastructure. The only thing that may, just from experience, is so with the energy audit, say the energy audit were to get done through the funding, there would have to be, like, say, you'd have to have those priorities within that grant already. So we couldn't say, for example, we're going to use $10,000 for the energy audit and then 40 for whatever they say in the energy audit. We would have to have the specific numbers, specific quotes, things like that.
Could it be worded such that after the energy audit is completed, remaining funds will be used to better insulate, just,
As long as we had the quotes for it,
Wait,
that would be.
well,
okay.
quotes for what, we get a quote on an energy audit, but we don't know what the energy audit is gonna
I know.
prioritize.
Exactly. So that's where it becomes tough because they need physical numbers in order to grant the money. Right, so for example, I mean, again, this is just all hypothetically. The energy audit, if there's a specific thing in this building, I think everyone said windows, for example. So 10,000 for the energy audit, and then get a quote for the windows at the same time, see how much.
For windows, meaning what, replacing all of them?
Replacing all of them, putting,
We're gonna break the budget and we're not at the highest return. Repairing windows, maybe on insulation, my experience. You probably plus continuing what you're doing is you're walling off, you're closing out areas so you don't have to heat.
but again, they would need the exact numbers for the
Well,
grant.
then we need a real specific plan.
Correct.
The energy audit will just be a nice bonus because we're gonna decide what we're.
Yeah.
The priorities without an energy audit.
But we could pull estimates for what would be most likely.
Right,
Right.
Like, I'm sure that, it's gonna say something to the effect of you should improve your insulation and your windows, and maybe just repair the windows versus replacement, but we could pull those estimates together,
Correct.
right, and submit that,
As long as, again, yeah, as long as the estimates are there.
and then we can.
Then next time we apply for grant again, we'll have energy audits. up there for this
Exactly.
stuff.
So it would all be
Well,
together and we can. Kind of parcel it out. But they'd have the numbers.
But
Right,
what's the feeling about blowing in insulation? 50,000, enough to do that. That's back,
It'd be close.
probably 30.
Is the roof insulated? I can't remember. Did we ever insulate the roof?
That was before my time.
I can tell, I don't know if you, I mean, have you seen the J Town office? Have you driven past? I don't know if you've seen the J Town office. It's an old restaurant that they converted into a town office. And just to do their roof with the dense pack cellulose was 63,000,
How much?
63.
Wish I'd gotten that job.
Yeah. They didn't put it to bid.
Yeah. It's not a-
Listen. How big is it?
So
The small restaurant, big restaurant.
30 by 60? It's
So no, you don't. It's not truly dense pack in the ceiling. You hire a guy with a blower and somebody to fill the hopper. You keep blowing until it's full.
Maybe it wasn't, it was spray foam.
Back in the walls, like,
It was spray foam.
is it, pardon?
It was spray foam.
Spray foam?
Yeah, spray foam is spray.
A good idea. What's your problem?
So if we could get estimates for insulating all the different areas in different ways in the building.
Mhm.
So we have this long list of estimates. And then we could decide based on the energy audit, which of these projects we should do first, and that would be based on need and what we could afford.
You
Then
say we can't do it in that order. They're not gonna pay for the energy audit first.
The energy, so what I'm,
Energy audit, it'll just be nice to have future.
yeah, so it's not a refund. So biggest thing is it's not a reimbursement. So the energy, so if we write in the energy audit into the grant and ask for that, the work wouldn't be complete until after the funds were released, which would then in turn be, it could be months. So you wouldn't know the results of the energy audit until, say, next April, which would help in the further rounds. But so in the energy audit, it does take a while for them to generate the report and all that stuff. So the thing about that is it's gonna be difficult to see the results from the energy audit and then apply for that in the same grant, because it won't be paid for until after the funds are received. So if you really wanted to do anything in here from the energy audit, then they would have to be preset with estimates. But if you want to do the energy audit and then say you just wanted LED lighting in here or LED lighting in the fire station, that's not going to affect really the building envelope. It's only going to affect your energy use. So you're not going to be losing anything from LED lighting.
That's,
So you could do the energy audit for 10,000, say we want 40,000 to do LED lights in the fire station, and then you do the energy audit, get your priorities back, and then the next round, you would do your installation.
why?
Yeah, because we built that building, I was wrong, by the way, we built that building in 2014 and didn't put LED.
Yeah, we're just,
Whole plated diamond plated light.
that's my successful. Hypothetical, you probably do this building, that building, and
This building's already been done.
There's a couple.
this building has been done?
Yeah.
If I live it down, I think it's fine with the LED list. The other thing, I'm gonna do this for the select board is when I get a spare 5 minutes before your next meeting, well, since we have a few weeks before our next meeting. I'm gonna walk around the building and identify every window that's broken and needs to be repaired, because I think you're gonna be shocked by the time I tell you how many broken panes we have.
I walked around and looked, and there's a lot.
Yeah,
I think with 50,000, that's just a super high priority. Just get an estimate on it. Do it.
Mhm.
I mean, at a minimum, a lot of the panes need to be replaced. Yeah,
There's
at a minimum.
that need to have movable sashes too, stuff like that. It's not gonna be cheap, even just to fix it.
Mm-mm.
Like they're solid windows. The problem is they're huge.
And they're weighted on the side, so there's a big heat loss gap right in the side, because that's where your weights sit, and that's an uninsulated portion at every window where we lose heat.
So I think a thing to keep in mind is you've got a million balls in the air already. Maybe doing the simplest thing right now is the best thing. That'd be the lighting and the energy audit and the windows. Or first of all, is lighting and,
The lighting in this building's done.
huh?
The lighting in this building was done years ago.
Oh, for high efficiency or?
Well, they're LEDs. I mean,
Yeah, it's just the fire department that doesn't have that.
Oh, I see.
yeah, the fire department doesn't have LEDs. Their electric bill's a lot higher than mine.
It's just building.
The electric bill here is probably $200 to $300 less a month than the fire station.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just the question, how big is the electric?
Here, depends on the time of year, anywhere between $300 and $450. Unless once it starts getting darker, it's a little bit more, but
Are these all fluorescent or LED?
LEDs.
Well, that's as good as it gets right now.
I think
Fire station windows, energy audit, dude. So getting into the walls and all that's gonna take a lot of your time, it is. We're complicated.
I don't know who has the report. This building was renovated by the school district. And I'm not sure where that report actually went. That would show what we did for installations. We had to move out of this building while it was renovated. So a lot of work went into it, may give us a clue on installation.
Yes.
For $200, you can get one of these installation companies to come in with a scope. On a cold day when you're heating a lot, and they'll show you where the terrible gaps are in heat loss, of course, the window.
I mean, we know that we were lacking some insulation out in the lobby because we had that burst pipe literally right. I mean, that resulted in a $40,000 insurance claim.
Well, another thing we could do is do blow in just in the walls and the heated areas, the most heated areas. Which would cut down on that cost. I think that blow in the whole building, I don't know, maybe 30 grand.
But it would be worth knowing
Yeah,
what's done.
that scope, you walk around with that scope and it takes pictures and you can see that. But at windows are obviously huge, just show up bright red, but then you'll see where the problems are in the wall. And it's a guide, and you could take those pictures and say, all right, bid on this. These areas that are priority areas, bid on those.
Yeah. You're just correct. You know, the school actually bought the upstairs. They owned it and renovated it. And what happened is when George RSU 10, did they give it back or did they sell it back to the town? I think but they actually owned the upstairs for a while.
They owned it or they leased it?
No, I believe they owned it. We should look at that. I think they gave it back, but I think they actually paid for it.
Totally macro. If anybody has I mean, there's. Somebody could spend decades in this building digging through files and looking for this stuff. I mean, unless somebody who was involved in it at the time knows where this stuff would be or who. I mean, if Heather, if you pull out that drawer right there, I bet you'll find the original plans for when they renovated this, and then when they did the gazebo and then stuff dating back to 1989 for the original high school, but.
Well, with respect, if you're gonna do insulation, you don't really need the plans for renovation, you need to do an inspection.
I know, but what you're just saying is that there's gotta be a record of what they did back then when they did it.
But you're saying it's hard to get, so I'm talking about a short.
Rick Colkins would know, because he was the superintendent.
No, he wasn't.
Huh, wasn't he?
No,
It wasn't Colkins? It was before.
way before.
Well, I think I did have an article in one of my collections. I'll see if I can find it, the advertiser.
I think it was Scott Myers.
I was gonna say it was even before, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
Vivian?
Yeah, I'm starting to get confused. I agree with having an energy audit, but I don't think we need, and maybe this is why I'm confused, because I don't. Common sense says to me, we have an issue with the windows. I don't need an energy audit to deal with the windows. So I don't want to go from focusing on this building to focusing on the fire station, because it's pretty weather tight and everything else. The only thing over there is missing LED lights. That to me would not be the priority, but these windows would be. Even if the walls aren't currently, it's like, when does the $50,000 come? You know, like from the time the application is filed,
So say March.
say March. So in the meantime, nothing can happen with the windows unless we put plastic on every window again. Right? Nothing can happen with the insulation, so on and so forth. In the meantime, the research can be, you know, contact the school district and find out they must have, like, state has 7 laws, I mean, a 7-year law that says you gotta maintain your records. Now, that might have been too far back and they don't have a record, but somebody can at least contact us. But in the meantime, I think we're talking 6 months to a year before a project would even start. Is that true?
From today?
Confused.
From today.
Well, yeah, or from whenever the
So the-
application is submitted.
So it'll be about,
Need a timeline, I guess.
so now we're getting ready, say, if it was released in March, the funds would be available probably April to early May. So it's a review process through the state. It's a competitive grant program. So each application gets reviewed and scored. There is priority for first-time applicants, so you guys would be considered a first-time applicant, which means you would go into a separate pile and be graded as a first-time applicant. So first-time applicants, I just applied for 4 towns and we received 4 awards for those 4 towns. And they were all first-time applicants. They were scored low, but that's because, like, the research that you're talking about didn't happen, right? So all that is. The quote for the windows would have to be in before March, so I could write the grant, make it look all good, and then submit it to the state. They review it, and then once they determine who is receiving funding, they issue the awards. So it's about a month to 2-month process before the award would go out to the town. That makes sense. So the project, as soon as. Correct, and as soon as the funds are released, you can begin the project. But the idea with the grant is that all the numbers are already in there. So they know exactly how much money they need to give you, and they know how much the project's gonna cost.
So your experience. Did the 4 other towns that you just completed that just received their grants, did they all have energy audits? Or none of them had energy?
No, none of them have.
Not a single one had.
It's not a requirement for the program.
There,
It just wouldn't mix, it just,
I know it
Yeah.
makes
yeah, you're right, yeah,
sense, says it's right before our eyes, we don't need a professional to tell us.
Yeah.
And to walk around, I mean, the fire department has thermal imaging cameras because they're seeking heat. But it'll seek cold just as much as it seeks heat, and you can go to Home Depot. And get the professional contractor grade ones and walk around people's basements and just run that laser right across any wall and do the same thing. So I just wanted to be clear that we didn't necessarily, it's not a requirement to have an energy audit. Just use common sense, go for the easiest priority maybe, and get our feet in the door. Okay.
yeah, energy audit's not a requirement.
I think Sumner went with their priorities. They did weatherization, they did LED lighting, and they did heat pumps to the town office. I think that's what they ended up getting there as awards for.
And I will say, I mean, energy audits, I mean, there's not many companies that do them. They're definitely hard to get. But I do know that the state, the GoPIF office where this program's going through is they're looking to contract with an energy auditor in the state. That way towns who are going through this process have someone to go to.
Yeah, but if it takes us 12 months to find an energy auditor before we can even apply for the grant, we're screwed.
So I totally agree, it's definitely, focus on things need to do.
I still think I think the energy audit's good to have, again, like you said, to assess maybe the things that are harder to see.
Well, good to
Right.
talk these things through,
Yep.
because it is a great idea, but the other things are greater ideas, and I put this on the wish list, the audit, and not the short-term goal.
Ballpark, I know it would be. Ballpark, what would an energy audit?
I would, for this building alone, probably 5 to 10.
So if we had an estimate for an energy audit and we include that in our request,
Mhm.
and then the next piece is the common sense,
Mhm.
look around and decide windows, we get the estimate for the windows and we could include that. So then we would have the information from the energy audit for the next round.
But still do a project and complete it.
So
And not have to wait the second time around.
Correct. So if the energy audit's only $5,000, I write that, I say they're gonna do energy audit for $5,000. The other $45,000 is going to do the windows. And they wouldn't really bat an eye, as long as it meets the requirements of the grant.
Well, we get a proposal for the windows,
Correct.
and then it might be enough to do the lighting
Exactly.
over there, so.
Yeah, I've had towns apply
For
for,
three things, if we had to drop one of them, then got tight, well, let's drop, I drop the energy, right, we didn't leave. Or it could be down at town fund.
exactly, right. Correct. I've seen towns do, like I said, Jay did one $50,000 project. I worked with Carthage, they did 5 different projects for a lower cost, but it just all depends on the scale, you know what I mean? The Carthage buildings, just very tiny, they could do a bunch of little stuff in there. But the J building, it required a little bit more in-depth, taking whatever they did. So that's why it costs more money. So it just all depends on project cost, really. You could do 10 projects, you could do 1 project. It really just comes down to the size of the project.
So as far as getting estimates, is this something that we do all on our own? Is this something that you have people that you've worked with in the past that can come give us estimates? That doesn't lock us into who we're going to use or what we're going to do, but that gives us the information we need to process this.
Right. The biggest thing that I would say is stick town's procurement policy. However you guys go about procurement, that's the way it should be. Right, but yes, the big thing with the estimates is, so some contractors only grant their estimates for 5 days. Some of them grant them for 3 months. So what I do is you kind of take into consideration, you can get a quote for the windows at 30,000, but 6 months later, it's gonna be 50,000, you know what I mean? So it really just depends. The quotes it can be a difficult part, but I do have resources to help you guys get that, get there. And Efficiency Maine, whether we use their incentives or not, have a great list of contractors and they break it down by what they do. So we'll be able to find someone
Do
now.
you think it'd be impossible for us to get fixed price proposal
Fixed price,
for 9 months out?
it might be tough at this just because of the supply
We
chain.
could Do it as late as February.
Mhm. Yep, one thing that we've done in the past was, I've had some communities get quotes early on. So we have a ballpark, because I can change,
That's a good idea.
and then ask for an updated quote right before the grant.
Well, quote or, most places, country to do, especially government, and they get a fixed price proposal, not an estimate. Estimate doesn't really mean very.
Yeah, I guess that would just come down to your procurement.
But what is the simplest, what is required to apply for this grant? And let's get that information. And then if prices go up, instead of doing all of the windows, we do 75% of the windows because we can't afford to.
But it does sound like we could get an update proposal within 3 months of doing the work, which there's no real excuse for that.
As long as there's
Not
right. The biggest thing is as long as there's a project cost listed in the grant. If, say it goes up $500, they're not gonna give you the extra $500, it would have to come from the town. That's why to have the most accurate, but as long as they have a project cost to go off of, if it's a good grant, they'll grant those funds for
You
the.
build in a 10% contingency for price increase.
I have done that, so I only did that in the case that I knew that there was gonna be an uptake. So Samsung, for example, increased 10%. In the month, they were going to increase 10% the month after I got the quote. So I increased the quote by 10%. In that case, yes, it would just have to show that it will actually go up, because that would be the issue if they grant you 48 versus 44 or something like that. So they just need that fixed number before the deadline is due. You can't fix it after that.
The contingency to be used for price increases and unforeseen condition.
I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure what it states.
I mean, that's
But I-
very standard in renovation, and so.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the thing.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. I have to just double check.
The deadline for the filing is January or February.
As of right now, it's still an estimate because they haven't set their dates yet.
And so if we had
We're gonna stay.
an estimate or a proposal from a contractor that said 45, so right in February, right before you bid it. That's also the time when the town is working on its financial budget for the previous year. And it changes it as of June 30th. So if we thought some wild thing in the world was gonna happen that would increase prices or something, we could potentially build in a contingency in the budget
From a town standpoint of the grant.
from the town's.
Oh, that I can't answer that question. That's, yeah,
Right, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to like see the whole picture that this grant will be out there at the exact same time we'll be doing budget work.
Yeah, it would be wise, I think.
And
first.
then,
Yeah,
you know, discussions around capital improvement will happen, so on and so forth. And if we thought we were like in a place where it was gonna maybe go higher, then we could build a contingency into the budget.
So if by the time we set the budget, we won't know if we're getting the grant. That's probably,
Well,
but it might be good to budget generically for town
contingency,
office.
yeah,
Well, don't call it, because you may not get the grant. It's not a contingency. You don't get the grant, but the work is here to do.
right. Right, language thing could be worked out,
$5,000.
yes, I mean, in the old days, in the budget committee, we used to have a contingency line in. In the municipal office, municipal building, I think is what the title of that section thing was, so I think.
For the sake of this,
Yeah,
what's our next step?
so
What we need to do next?
next step is I'm gonna finalize these two documents with everything we talked about tonight. In the meantime, the last piece of the required materials to enroll is the resolution, which I believe I passed around an example of. And I also sent the copy to Cam on his email. So if you wanted to pass that tonight, you can pass it at the next meeting. As soon as that's passed, we can get you enrolled and make you eligible, and then we can start talking about project. The other thing that I will add is this sheet right here. You guys feel free if you want. You were here, so you gave your feedback. But I like to do this because they ask for community engagement. So I have the date set here as 10/31/23. It's basically just a checklist for people that weren't here and want to give their feedback. They can just go on and check the types of projects that they would want to see. Cam, I'll leave you the extra copies and I'll send you one. You can throw it up on the.
Yeah, you get the PDF copy of it too.
Yep, and I can throw it.
Send that to me, so.
Yep, and we can put it on the website. And then that way we're ensuring that we covered all the demographics we could and get their feedback. And then, like I said, once all that stuff's complete, we can enroll.
So. We make these available to the public. I think we should also make them available somewhere that's not electronic for those people that don't,
Yeah, I'll leave my extra copies here.
but
Bring copies to the library.
do they? Return the copies here, send it to you, what's the,
I have it, I think I have it as.
Return to the town office.
Return to the town office.
and this is something they could do on paper and return to the town office or electronically,
Yep.
email it?
You can email it, we can
Okay.
take a picture of it, we can drop it off.
Or it could even be just people just typing, this project sounds like a good idea. Yeah, just something to document that we covered all the. Yeah.
Sure.
Would, we have a share, I just wanted to bring up, because some people have mentioned it to me, we have a shared transfer station with Sumner, who's also in the partnership with CB. And the recycling in the last couple of years, like, has become very limited as to what they can actually recycle. Would increasing our recyclable items be a project that would fall under this project? And will we qualify for the 125 because it's with Sumner?
So the easy answer is not right now because they didn't include solid waste in the main climate action plan. Which I don't know why they didn't in the first place,
Mhm.
but I do know that the state GOPIS hiring a solid waste policy advisor. So they can implement solid waste.
Okay,
But there is another program that we can talk about. I can email Cam about that could help transfer station.
Okay.
So that's my other job, one of my other jobs, is solid waste.
And Sumner just received the grant too, so it wouldn't have been,
Right,
because they just got one
yeah, and they
We
could
did
still
it
apply. They would still be
later
able-
on in another.
Yeah.
so do we meet again?
Paper, oh, you
Do we meet again and should we set that meeting because our meetings are getting?
It's up to you, honestly, it's up to you, we've done all the required plus one. But if you, again, I'm available at, pretty much however you need me to be.
So we can contact him through Cam.
Yeah, you guys just let me know when you want me to get.
So as a select board, we will take all of the town input and make the decision. Is that how the decision is about what the priorities are?
Yep.
Okay, and then we let you know. Fantastic.
Yep. And then, like I said, in the meantime, I'll work with him to kind of get everything we need to enroll. And go from next.
When would you like that decision?
For the project,
Mhm.
that doesn't have to be until we really write the grant.
Mhm.
Really, the next step would be enrolling, making sure we have all the documents we need, and then we can discuss that. But I mean, realistically, I kind of included in the resolution, we talked about energy efficiency, critical infrastructure, yeah. So, I just kind of listed things that I figured would come up no matter what. And then we can go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I look forward to this one.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries. More people than I thought would find.
Yeah.
I've had some with zero. It's hard to get community feedback.
Yeah. Done with the workshop, back at 6:30.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
No worries.
Copies. Put them out of the store and maybe physically give them to some people that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take a short break.
Maybe I've left multiple pop in theory. I'll learn that.
These two.
Or more available. At the store there, for people
Yes.
tend to get involved, things like this, I just like.
Yeah, please call, and if you want the color to it.
It does not
The
include
better off we are.
here. And then there's something on the back, so that has to cross.
That's a good 25 responses.
It did work. Pre-K, good.
I'm so surprised that they didn't include solid waste in their climate action plan. That's like such a
No, we didn't.
blind spot. Like all the garbage that we produce. Are we being?
Got Irish,
Diminish.
it could be
I don't
dug
know.
up
Does it matter?
once.
Cameron, are
Peter. Just going.
being recorded?
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, because we still,
Oh,
oh, you pausing?
Yeah.
Watch what you say.
I believe the.
okay, okay.
I just figured I'd just keep it going. The meeting doesn't start until 6:30. It's not a big deal. All right.
I'll find a time to get together.
All right.
I'll find a time to come out.
And then.
Yeah, okay, I have the old fashioned blue kind, not blue flag, but the big ones, and I have some white Siberian.
Under public, other business, we'll do that.
Mhm.
That's. And the resolution. Okay.
You want mute? No. Or.
Yeah.
Ready? Yeah.
That's ready.
That's slide.
Go.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll call this meeting of this Buckfield Select Board. Meeting to order on October 17th, 2023 at 6:33 p.m. We do have a quorum. Old business, the solid waste committee meeting update.
Okay, so I attended Sumner's select board meeting on 10th. Yeah, last Tuesday. And I spoke to them about the need to have our second solid waste committee meeting. They've agreed to tentatively, as long as it works with all of you, December 5th, which is your first select board meeting here. They did ask that it be, because all of them, I believe all of them have jobs, so it's hard to do the 5 o'clock, like go to 5:30. They asked if we could do it at 6:30, so you may have to make a motion to have your meeting after the solid waste meeting on the 5th, but if the 5th works for all of you, it works for them.
Sounds good. So I'll make a motion that we hold the solid waste committee meeting at our December 5th meeting, beginning at 6:30 with the selectmen meeting to follow.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather,
Sandra, I.
Thank you. And thank you for getting over there to chat with them. That was great. We'll get that going again. Fire rescue integration workshop. That was a very good little meeting.
It was.
Yes.
So there was a fire rescue integration workshop, just to start collecting information and have some discussions. The turnout was phenomenal.
Mhm.
I did not count, but I probably close to 30 people
Yeah,
in the room. Folks had a lot of information to share, a lot of ideas. I took notes. I'll write them up and share them with everyone. I think it's important to continue to communicate. Change can be challenging.
yeah, they were very positive though, I
Yeah.
thought.
And so as we move forward, for the public to know, as we move forward, we'll be looking for input from the community, from other people. We'll be doing research.
Mhm.
Nothing's going to happen quickly. Nothing's going to happen without thoughtful research and input
Mhm.
from others. But the workshop as a whole, it was really exciting to see the number of people that attended and
Yeah, there's lots of good questions. Yeah, I think we really made some headway.
people are continuing, I believe, to
Yeah, I've received some.
hand in some written input
Mhm.
to look at further after thoughtful review. So thank you to fire and rescue
Yeah,
personnel for all of your information. Thank you.
all right. New business, the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
second that.
Discussion. So the totals on that, received $50 warrant scholarship, and the disbursement warrants totaled $256,950.40, which includes the RSU and winter sand payments.
All the winter sand is now stockpiled, and ready to go.
All right. All those in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
All right. Approve the minutes of the October 3rd, 2023 select board meeting. Everybody had a chance to look at them. Sure. Oh,
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the October 3rd, 2023 select board meeting with a few minor corrections to grammar.
I said it was okay, she could bring this up.
I like I pointed out to Cameron, so it has nothing to do with content, just
You said you have them notated online. Okay.
give them to you.
all right.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
Thank you. Automobile junkyard permit renewal for RC garage and auto salvage.
All of you, I believe, have a copy of Rick's renewal application.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the RC garage and auto salvage automobile junkyard permit renewal.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
See me. Toward the end of the week, I'll already filled up. Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming
sir.
in, being available.
My apologies, who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Who was the second?
I was.
More committee appointments. I know.
So Jim was already on the road committee and the social services committee. He came in today to find out if his term had expired. So this is a reappointment to the two committees that he's already on or was already on.
I'll make a motion to appoint James Lowell for 2 years, reappointment to the road committee and the social services committee.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? So, all right, all in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I. Thank you, Mr. Lowell.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Our committee appointments are way up. It's great. Yeah, I love it. Proposed Veterans Memorial Monument at Buckfield Damon Cemetery.
So Jim wanted to come in today, but he had a scheduling conflict with the American Legion. He had approached me about the potential of putting he said a veteran memorial on. My assumption without talking to him would be some sort of stone that just recognizes him, similar to what's down in the center of town. Right now, I think they lay the flowers on the ground in front of the flagpole, which he was asking about possibly putting a stone in front of the flagpole for
This
that
is at
purpose.
Damon Cemetery.
At Damon Cemetery, yes, sorry. I said that I would bring it to the select board and ask for thoughts or what you feel we should do to look into it. Sorry, so I just got her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sandra.
So I knew what this was and I was thinking about it and I think I would suggest that we ask the Legion to put together a proposal of what they feel would be appropriate and the cost of procuring stone, monument, whatever it is, and installation. And then once we have that information, because I have no idea what the cost would be, and it would be hard to make a decision without that information.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Is that something, Cameron,
I'm writing it down.
Fantastic. I'm not asking you to do the research. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Is the board aware that within the Buckfield Damon Cemetery, there are designated memorial lots? The town owns, but they're designated memorial lots, so they can never be sold. I think one of those memorial lots is where the flagpole now stands. But I'm racking my brain
I think you're correct.
to, the total amount of memorial lots is either 2 or 4.
Mhm.
So on the proposal that's submitted, you might want to ask
Which lot?
which lot, or for sure the flagpole, or the location in general.
Mhm.
Or if they have a preference.
Or if it, yeah. Or maybe they're planning on separate complete lot and they'll just put the monument on it too. It doesn't have to go on a memorial, but yeah.
The proposal that he had come to me with informally was in the vicinity of the flagpole. Which, and that's why I think you're correct as that being one of those lots, because there's no graves in that section, and
It's hard to remember, isn't it?
yeah. What do I always tell you? I got a 2 megabyte capacity in my brain and I've got
Right.
6 terabytes of information coming. All right, I'll reach out to Jim
Right.
this week and I'll do more digging in on the cemetery itself and see what that lot is listed as.
Thank you. So we don't need a motion on that, which is gonna, it's informative. All right. The 2023-24 tax commitment update.
All right, so I threw this on here just for the public record. I know I posted it online. Some people have already started to receive them. Tax bills were committed last week. They're going out in batches as we stuff them, because as you can imagine, it takes a long time to stuff 1,400 envelopes. The good news is the mill rate was within 10 cents of what I had estimated during the budget process. I had said that I was roughly estimating a 26.2 mill rate, and we ended up at 26.10, which is a $2.13 per thousand drop from last year's tax or mill rate. So we're headed in the right direction. And next year, obviously, we're going to have the reassessment information. So values are going to change, mill rates are going to change, but hopefully we keep heading in a direction that is not putting more of a burden on our taxpayers than necessary. So good news, commitment was done, tax bills are out. The mortgage companies have already uploaded the files to CoreLogic, which is one of the biggest ones that handles tax payments. So if accounts are escrowed, there's a good chance that it's CoreLogic that issues your payment and they have your information. And we're still, other mortgage companies contact us daily and we send that information up to them in whatever format they require, so. Gives them a month to plan to make the payment, so everything should be all set.
Yeah, oh, yes.
So I'd just like to throw out there or suggest to community members that if when they get their tax bill, there is something on it that is not clear, that they don't understand, that they think might be an error. The best way to handle it would be to come into the town office. If you want to make sure that you can have time to talk with Cameron, that you can call and make an appointment. So Cameron will set aside that time. That I feel confident in saying no one who works in this town office is purposefully trying to do things to be, I don't know how to express it, but so could mistakes have been made? Yes, So if you have a question, come and ask it, or it may just be that something has changed and there's a really good explanation as to why it has been changed. I have been in the town office when people have come in supercharged and big tax bills can really ignite people, and I understand that. But some of the treatment and language that I've seen passed on to the staff in this office has been pretty upsetting. So I would just encourage people to come in and calmly
Ask questions.
ask questions, ask for clarification. And if for some reason someone feels that they don't get the answers that they want, then they could reach out and contact the select board. But the best thing to do is to go in and ask the questions and get the explanation.
Yep, agreed. In this, I mean, in the past, there's certainly been some bumps. And I would say this was relatively seamless.
On the front end.
Yeah.
What's a lot of work?
It's a lot of work, and certainly we don't want to see our staff abused in any way. No.
It's limited to a select few. Most people, even if they come in supercharged, like what Sandra had said, 15 minutes of conversation and explanation, because there's a lot of people that just don't understand what goes into it and how to understand it. Most of them leave, well, I wouldn't say happy. Nobody's happy about paying taxes, right? But fulfilled in the sense that they understand what's going on and that mistakes weren't made. So, I mean, I welcome anybody to come in and ask the questions, because if you don't know and we can explain it, I am all about helping people understand it. I think Sandra's seen me do it in front of her store before, with people who were confused about how things worked. And I mean,
It's confusing. There's a lot in it.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
And for instance, the deduction this year went down,
yep,
but we're trying to remedy that with our revaluation.
Yep.
So,
And that was beyond our control.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
stop selling.
Yeah. Oh, yes, Viv?
Yeah, I'm just looking for clarification. I might have said the wrong thing because I was asked and I said. It's pretty. I said, call the town office and ask to talk to the assessor or the assessor's assistant, which would be calling office. And now I'm hearing you say, call the town manager.
Call the town office.
Okay, call the town office and ask for the assessor.
I think you could call the town office and say that you have questions about your tax bill, and depending on what the question is, it would be directed to the person who has the answers or can best explain it. And it may also be who's working that day and who's available.
So I might not have said the wrong thing after all. Okay,
But certainly call the town office and ask your questions, or set up an appointment.
Yeah.
To ask your questions, and folks will find the answers.
Yes.
So, I mean, if somebody calls, because the town of Buckfield only contracts out 16 hours a week for their assessor. If somebody calls and the assessor's not here, we do have a process for documenting the request. We keep a log of everything that comes in at the front office, and then we relay everything back to the assessor on that form. So if, say, there were an issue with somebody didn't get a response within, whatever they deemed wasn't an appropriate period of, or was an appropriate period of time, I can go back in the log and see what was requested. Most of the requests that come in are things that myself and the two clerks can handle or explain. The more complicated, like, this doesn't look like it's valued right or whatever, like, I can explain the basics of how it was valued, but if there is a discrepancy, that's when it goes to the assessor to review to make sure that there wasn't an issue. So we try to prioritize the stuff that we can't handle to make sure that the assessor's time is being used adequately and not being used to answer questions that we can handle. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
yeah, I just wanted to make sure I hadn't said the wrong thing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, you and your staff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And folks can go online right now and get those They don't have to wait for the mail, right? You can just-
Right,
Yeah,
they're all posted on the website under the assessor's link. I posted it on Facebook with a link directly to them, and I think Alyssa's working on probably the last batch of 250 right now, so most of them have gone out.
ah, perfect. All
And
right,
if you don't get one,
Well, I was going to ask,
odds are your address isn't correct in the computer, so please contact us so we can verify and double check so that we know for a fact we have your correct address.
because a tax bill goes out for every single
Yep.
property.
And some properties, there's multiple tax bills that go out because they'll go to the property owner plus the lien holder, or any lien holders or mortgage holders that we have on file as well, so. Your mortgage company will get your tax bill, but if you want it yourself and your address is wrong, you're not gonna get it because it'll get sent back to us and it'll sit in a box on the shelf until we. I try to use white pages, and that's helped me in some instances locating updated addresses, but. I mean, there's only 3 of us and there's a lot more parcels than there are of us, so it's,
That's something professional courtesy that is not required
correct. Because
in any way, shape or form.
another thing to be aware of is if you purchase a piece of property in town, when we received the real estate transfer form. And a copy of the deed, we put the address in that's on the deed. Form, so if you lived in Auburn in an apartment and that's the address that was recorded until somebody comes in to tell us otherwise. To tell us that your mailing address is now this house or a PO box, we won't know that until somebody comes in. Mobile homes have been another issue. People sell mobile homes, they move them, they don't bring us a copy of the bill of sale, they get a tax bill, they're upset. We don't. Bill of sales for mobile homes, if they're on a rented lot, do not get sent to the registry of deeds, so we have no record that this ever happened, so people need to do. You need to take that extra step to make sure that, hey, I sold this, I need to make sure that my name's taken off of it, so that I'm not paying taxes on something that I don't own anymore.
yes,
But if they did receive a tax bill for something that they no longer own or no longer have, once they come in and give you the documentation you need, then that can be corrected.
Correct.
So people don't need to,
It's not the end of the world, it can be rectified if you can prove that it was sold before April 1st, bring in that proof. Can be abated and a supplemental will be issued to the new owner. If it's still in Buckfield.
thank you.
You're welcome.
all right. Townwide noise complaints. Sure. Yes,
So I asked that this be added to the agenda. I have had more than one community member come and talk to me about their frustration with fireworks and loud explosive noises happening at all hours of afternoon, night, into the wee hours of the morning, sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Off and on weeknights. It is my understanding that Buckfield does not have a noise ordinance. I personally would like to avoid having an ordinance for things that can be managed through communication and neighborly behavior.
yeah,
So in no way am I suggesting that we go right out and create a noise ordinance. But I get it. I would not want fireworks and explosions happening night after night, week after week, weeknights. Folks have livestock. I do understand that special events, somebody gets married, somebody, you have fireworks. I hope that people would be responsible about it and do it at a decent hour, perhaps do it on a Friday or Saturday night. I also get it. There's New Year's, there's 4th of July. And the folks who came and talked to me, they weren't saying we don't want fireworks ever, we don't want explosions ever. They're just bothered by the quantity and the timing. So I am bringing it up here because it has been brought to me. And from the way it was explained, I imagine that there are other community members out there who may be feeling the same way. So where do we think we should go from here with this?
They frequently happen around my house as well.
Me as well.
Yeah.
3 in the morning,
Yeah, all
4
out.
in the morning,
All
5
out.
in the morning.
Right, and it wouldn't be unusual for a town to have a noise ordinance, and most of the towns around here do. Some even have fireworks ordinances that restrict those.
I think the gist of it, you just, people use common sense. I mean, I don't think the majority of people in town have an issue with people who have enough property, target practicing in their field or whatever, but when it's, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we're not talking 4th of July, we're not talking, just on a Thursday morning at 3 in the morning, why are we blasting off cannons or repetitively shooting a gun? I don't know how many shots it takes to kill a skunk these days, but it doesn't typically take me that many.
Just got off second shift, did they just get off second shift?
Maybe, who knows? Maybe that's their 6 in the afternoon. But
Can we put it out there to the community? Please talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, encourage people to be responsible, because
Yeah.
the next step, I think, would be looking at noise ordinance, firework ordinance, and there are people who don't like fireworks at all, and I understand that. And there are people that, anyway. Encourage your friends and neighbors to be responsible.
So could we put should we put it on our, like, the Facebook page, and, just to get the word out that people are noticing, that kind of thing? Yes, Viv?
No, would be my response. Do not put anything like any of it on Facebook, because Facebook seems to be the Armageddon of Buckfield.
It's not.
That's all I ever hear about is how disastrous things happen on Facebook.
Yeah, she's just reading my think bubble.
Just a little bit of background. This would probably be, I'm gonna exaggerate, the umpteenth time noise ordinances come up in town since I've been here. And every single time it goes nowhere, because the town will not vote for a noise ordinance. It's not just fireworks. I thought we had a little something about fireworks. And it's not just guns, it's also barking dogs. And it's also trucks and machinery and chainsaws. I would suggest not Facebook, maybe the town website page. Anytime I've had, like, I think one of the easiest things to do is invite your neighbors to your parties. So
They're going to get invitations, Cameron, every other night.
no, but I know that it's hard, but then I wasn't kidding when I know some people do work second shift. And so their clock is, changed, and they only have limited opportunity, but to be insensitive and not aware of, I think a conversation with your neighbor is helpful. If that's possible, talk to your neighbor first. Try to have neighbor to neighbor work it out, just like you would encourage them if it was a boundary dispute. Hey, how can we resolve this together? How about if you're gonna be on second shift and have to shoot at night, that it's on a Friday night versus not, encourage the communication between the neighbors, and if anything, If you need to post it anywhere, put it on the town webpage, but stay away from Facebook.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I would have said our Facebook page.
No,
we
I
have
know.
control. We don't want to.
Oh, you mean your
Yeah.
town thing or something?
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
yeah, so that it's not,
Just don't put it.
you know,
Like a-
kind of free for all.
If I put it on our Facebook, it'll get shared to another one.
Yeah,
I mean, I typically share notices and stuff, but the other stuff gets shared as well by other
Yeah.
people, so.
Yeah.
And it's like that reverse psychology thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes in situations that are kind of like this, you ask them to stop,
Goes
then
to
it turns
the
into
lawyer.
I'm gonna do it more
Yeah.
situation, so it could
Yeah.
result in the opposite of what
Yeah.
we're looking to do.
Yeah.
And for some people, particularly older people,
Scary.
and with fireworks, they don't know where they're coming from.
yeah,
So they.
If your neighbor's dog is barking incessantly, you know who it is, and you can go have a conversation with them. But if you don't know at 3 o'clock in the morning where the fireworks are coming from, and you're alone or you're older or for whatever. And I would not encourage people to maybe approach strangers,
Right. I wouldn't,
alone.
especially elderly and in the middle of the night, because they can call out for county or state troopers.
But if we do not have an ordinance, there's nothing that can be done.
But if they say, I think I heard gunshots, it's the middle of the night. The troopers will show up, not because we don't have an ordinance, but because it's illegal to hunt after night.
There are animals that you can harvest at night,
That's
but it doesn't. If it takes 60 shots to kill the coyote, then go to a range and shoot for this.
a lot of coyotes.
Right, and
Crossed
you're
all lines.
hunting coyotes with 60 shots every other week, yeah.
It's hard to legislate ethics, morality, common sense. I hear you.
Right. So I brought this up, my thought being, let's encourage folks out there to have discussions
Yeah,
Civilly.
Yeah.
to see if we can resolve this without proposing an ordinance, which probably won't be supported by the majority of the town, but I don't know. I'm not going to speak for the town.
have we put forth a noise ordinance in the past?
It's never made it that far
And
on a number of machines. No way to enforce it. for one thing.
yeah, your sheriff's department, your state police, they're there to enforce state and. They're not gonna enforce local ordinances, and where we don't have a police department, it's kind of hard to. What's the violation, a fine that now we have to have? What, code enforcement go out and tell them that, I
Right,
mean, that's just, you get that, it's sort of like the parking ordinance that we talked about,
yeah,
then you got legal fees associated with taking them to court and getting the judgment to make sure that, it's.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we can neighbor to neighbor and friend to friend and just around town, hey, if you hear shooting and you know who it is, can you have a conversation with them? And let them know that they have elderly neighbors and, just,
Anybody within a mile of you with livestock is being impacted.
yeah. I'm guilty. I mean, I will tell you right now that I was shooting my 30-30 Winchester lever action today. And it was. It was a, long story short, I actually hit the targets and blew my targets. The bullet went right through. 1/2-inch metal targets.
So please don't go home and do 60 shots at midnight, okay? But
Thank you.
So mess with them in the middle of the night.
That would be 38 minutes. Yeah. No.
All right,
thank you.
thank you. Public safety concerns.
So I also asked for this to be put on the agenda.
Because Bev has a gun now.
It's had nothing to do with it. I think there are concerns about behaviors in town. I think that it's important that this discussion not include names or addresses. But I read Facebook once or twice a week to try to be informed, and many people have come into Tilton's and expressed their concern at the market. We see behaviors in the parking lot that in the last 9 years, we have never witnessed. These behaviors are coming from people I don't know. So they're either new to the community or they're visiting this community. I have talked to the sheriff's department. I have talked with our town manager. People are aware. I would suggest to the public that if you see something, say something. If people see a behavior that appears that it could be illegal or dangerous for someone else, to call either 911 or call the non-emergency number, which I don't have written down, but maybe we could post that to the sheriff's department and report it, because at least with the reporting, it will be documented. And even if what you're witnessing is not something that makes you afraid, but you think this could be dangerous for someone else, for children, to call and report it, because the more that it gets out there, the more information that the sheriff's department has, perhaps the more quickly they can act to resolve some of this. Do you have any information?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a spinoff to this, I mean, I guess the big purpose of this agenda item was to kind of let people know in town, you know, like lock your doors, keep an eye out for your neighbor. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that's been reported here, which obviously the Oxford County's the correct go-to on a lot of it. But I would definitely recommend that people lock the doors in their houses, keep their cars locked, and just be cognizant of their surroundings. We had a bag of drugs dropped off at our rescue station that was found on the river bed. You know, there's been reports that needles have been found in certain places in town. Like, just people need to be careful and be cognizant of what's going on, and just be careful.
And there have been reports of theft
Or attempted
or attempted theft. So
trespass.
to clarify for people, you're saying lock your doors and be aware.
I mean, you see
This
people-
has to do with theft, not violence.
right.
There have been no reports of,
I haven't had any reports of violence. It's been, you know, I mean, I've witnessed, you know, people looking into people's vehicles' windows in broad daylight in your parking lot, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And people in people's yards where they don't belong.
In the woods where they don't belong.
Or in the woods where they don't belong, or, you know, it's just. I just want people to be aware that they need to look out and just. I know Buckfield's always seemed like a relatively safe community. I don't think I started locking my doors until I moved back here in 2016, and that was only because we had a few instances up in North Buckfield, but. It may seem silly if you run into Tilton's to shut your car off and lock your door, but.
at this point, it would be a good
It
idea.
would make sense to do so. Just my recommendation. With that said, I mean. The sheriff's department is really struggling right now, like a lot of us. I think the last count that I heard was they're down at a lot of deputies. So the deputies that they do have are overworked. They're working a lot of overtime. They're responding to calls, but you know, it's. it's not always easy for them to be here in 10 or 15 minutes, like.
Yeah, they cover a huge,
I mean, there's three sections of Oxford County, I believe.
Yeah.
And
Kind of big.
yeah, it's not like some of these other counties where, they got twice the amount of deputies and they cover a heck of a lot less, geographically, Oxford County's big and these guys are working really, really hard and they're doing the best that they can. So we kind of have to watch out for each other because we don't necessarily have a sheriff's deputy coming through town all the time, looking at the things that, people in Auburn probably take for granted because they've got 5 or 6 cops on every night. So.
yes, ma'am.
I have 2 suggestions that I do. One is I have a 911 personal list. So speed dial, right, on your cell phone or whatever. The second thing is I think the more you talk to your neighbors and you have a plan with your neighbors, it might be that someone on your street's home during the day while you might be at work and make like a phone tree, like just like you would for a storm. During the ice storm, everybody helps everybody, but just like a little mini neighborhood watch thing. Because on my road, I mean, when I was gone, I missed 2 houses being put in. I missed the guy in the woods. I missed a lot that week. But anyway, everybody's like looking out for everybody. And so if you just have that one time, like connection with your neighbor and say, hey, let's look out for one another.
Yeah, that's a roundabout neighborhood watch situation, right? That's,
Yeah, just on your own street, just
Yeah.
on your own road,
yeah,
not the whole town and
Yeah.
then aware.
I like those words. We need to look out for one another.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Ring has an app too that some other communities use. It's free, but I think it's Neighbors by Ring. Basically, it's like a neighborhood watch, but people, they find a dog or whatever, they post on there and it lets everybody that's signed up for that group know.
Oh,
I mean, if somebody wants to set something up too, that's a good way to share information as well.
right. And if somebody looks like they have a problem, dialing 911 is not a bad idea. You don't know what's wrong with them. Right?
Somebody looks like they're having a seizure, they might be having a seizure.
Yeah,
right. It's not all drugs,
yeah.
but some of it is. And on that note, is this the appropriate time to say that one of the rumors I heard was that there was 2 meth labs in town?
I don't know if there is or not, but.
It's like, it's true.
Yeah, that's it.
That you just don't know what's happening.
Yeah,
And I think that's the biggest problem with small towns is a lot of times things can get blown into this big rumor,
Yeah.
and in 24 hours, something small is something very big that it may have some truth and it may be rooted in some truth, but it's just, you don't know till you know.
Well, we know that drugs and addiction is a national
Christ.
crisis. And it was just a matter of time before it hit a level in this community where everyone's noticing it.
Yeah.
Addiction issues have been an issue in Buckfield for a long time for some people, but it's that the population of people who are facing addiction issues and drug use, in this community is growing, and there are people coming to this community who we don't know. Yeah, it's a real concern. There are a lot of rumors. There may be truth to some of the rumors. There may not. But
Astor Town, we're really close to Lewiston, Auburn, and I don't know if anybody follows the news, but the stuff that Lewiston has done recently, I mean, they're really pushing some of these people out. And we're just down the road.
yeah. And I know that the main EMS is, all the providers are receiving, special training right now for, dealing with substance use disorder. So we want to be able to interact with those folks. So, don't hesitate to dial 911 so we can try and get to them and make some difference where we can. We do have the our can drop off programs going. And by December, every service in Maine will have that program. So it's free to the service and to the taxpayers. So, the training's there. And a lot of the folks that already at this rescue have it. So
Thank you.
thank you. All right, under other business, we have to add a couple items. We have to schedule a public hearing.
This one was my bad. So it needs to be sometime between the 24th and 28th. And I don't anticipate it's gonna take a lot of time. It's just the 3 articles. Which would be 2 actual articles that are, everybody votes on and then the moderator, so.
Would you look at 24th or 25th, please?
24th through the 28th.
24th or 25th?
I'm good on the 24th.
I'd be good for the 24th or 5th.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Time.
So should we call it 24th at 6:30, the usual time?
Yep.
Yeah, works for me. I'd like to make a motion.
Does that give us plenty of time for the notice?
Yeah, I have,
Okay.
if you do it right now, and I go type it up, and I post it before I go to bed tonight.
Okay.
24th at 6:30.
And that's a public hearing on the warrant articles.
Town warrant, yeah.
And it will be held here and also on Zoom,
Yeah.
correct? Thank you.
Make a motion on that.
I will just make it official.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, October 24th at 6:30 PM. Regarding the town warrant articles.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
Thank you. And another piece of business is adopting the resolution for the AFCOG Community Resilience Partnership Program. I think everybody saw it. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't see anything in here that caused me any great concern.
Nope.
No.
This doesn't bind us to anything. It just allows us to become involved in the process.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm. I'll make a motion that we accept and sign the Community Resilience Partnership Resolution.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, Bob, aye.
Azalea, I.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
Thank you. Any other business? Yes.
And just to make the comment, follow up on this community resilience partnership. We had a public meeting before this meeting, great discussions. The, for anyone who's just joining us, there is a flyer with questions, and asking for input that will be available here at the town office. It's available online.
Will be.
Will be available online and perhaps other places in town. Looking for the input from any community member.
Yeah.
All the directions, explanations are here, so anyone who's interested could be involved, and that would be great.
And they're due back by Halloween.
Yep, right.
Yes.
The 31st.
Yes, Viv?
We still under other business?
Yes.
Can we go back to the solid waste committee. It's been so long. Right, I'm glad the meeting is set. Number 12 under the in progress items is annual sticker change. The meeting has been set, but is there an agenda and will number 12 be a part of that meeting? And is there an agenda?
I think we could put that in the agenda.
There's no agenda
So,
yet.
yeah, because these,
Something we've wanted to bring up a
we
lot.
we have the chair, right? What's, yeah, chair, yeah.
But it was.
Thanks for pointing that out, Cameron.
I guess what I'm saying is, I knew the sticker change was part of the discussion, but I'm racking my brain is to try to remember why we were meeting with it.
It's in the charter that we meet with them twice a year.
But I thought there was something else that needed to happen in that meeting.
So, yeah, the agreement. So when I was there on Tuesday, I handed their three selectmen who, reminder, they were all elected like 5 weeks ago. The updated agreement that we approved as a town. And I handed it to the three of them. So they now have that in their hands. So they received approval at their town meeting to sign it as well. So anticipating that at that meeting, everybody will sign off on it. It'll be good. We're currently working on an extension per the agreement that allowed you to extend it if one had expired until the new one was passed. So there wasn't a whole lot of changes in the agreement other than changing MWAC to MWE, main waste energy, and accounting for the 5 select board versus the former 3. So there were 3 members. Actually, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing this up. So you're on the committee.
Me, Bob, and it was Mike.
So Mike was on the committee. Since Mike is no longer there, it may be you to appoint one of the other 2 or the next. Yeah, I mean, you have till the 5th, it's the meeting, but maybe after the election.
Yep.
The 3 other selectmen take a look at who wants to be the 3rd for the town of Buckfield, so that when we go to that meeting, when they come to the meeting here, there's 3.
Yep. So we'll be thinking about
So
that.
we can put that on our agenda for which meeting?
14.
Yeah,
Because that'll be the first meeting for the newly elected selectmen to do that.
so November 14th meeting agenda item.
Yeah, appoint another member to the solid waste committee. Yeah.
And then the only other part of that, wasn't there something about the swap shop that had to be discussed with Sumner? In terms of where the donations go from the donation box and how it gets accounted for and clarifying whether or not it's put in the swap shop line budget of this transfer station's budget and what percentage of the electric bill it pays. That whole thing that came up a couple months ago.
So perhaps at the November 14th meeting.
Sorry, I was like, what is that noise? Sorry,
Long day, long week.
long life.
That we could also include on the agenda discussion of what should be on the agenda
Yeah, moving forward.
for the meeting, for the solid waste meeting.
And even though the AVCOG grants aren't available right now, that doesn't mean we can't.
Right.
Because that would be very beneficial, right?
Yeah.
And I would also caution, like, those 3 selectmen, they've got a lot on their plate right now. And we should probably go to that meeting prioritizing what we need to talk about without throwing the whole kitchen sink at them. Because at a town level, they're working their way through a lot of stuff, and we all remember what it was like to be new, and all 3 of them are brand new. So they're just getting their feet wet and understanding how things are working. So they're gonna look to you
All right.
for guidance as well.
So. Yeah, just to clarify, I wasn't thinking about the AVCOG grant that you had brought Sandra, but I was thinking more. That we're gonna be entering the budget process and it's taken this long to get one meeting and I hear you, they're brand new. But I think having clarification of the financial part of how the transfer station operates before you all enter into the budget process would be a good thing to have.
I mean,
I seriously doubt that there'll be another meeting before, I don't know, I shouldn't second guess.
as far as the financial aspect of it, I think the real question is just the swap shop. As far as the financial aspect of the solid waste department, which the town of Buckfield maintains that. The management control and we handle the financials aspect of it. We budget for the full operating budget of the transfer station and then we bill Sumner for their portion. So the majority of the financials centered around the transfer station are. It's not confusing. We get an electric bill and I pay for it out of the utilities line. And that's where it's budgeted for and that's how we pay it. The question was that there were statements made that some things helped to offset the electric bill, which I don't even know where that comes from because we budget for it. We bill Sumner their portion, we pay our portion, and there's only one electric bill.
I can prove, okay, so. I can tell you where that comes from. I can show you all the previous budgets I have and the audits from the auditors of how those donations, which now have to go before the board to be accepted into. Am I wrong about that? I mean, you're now putting donations on here because that's what MMA says.
Yeah.
So the swap shop is collecting cash and donates it to the town.
No, they donate it to the swap shop, which that money is commingled and always has been in the solid waste bank account.
But as a town of Buckfield, town of Sumner, doesn't it have to be accepted? I make a motion, we accept the donation.
The bank accounts are in our name. We maintain the control of the financials and the management aspect of the transfer station.
So am I expecting to see, just for clarification, at some point. On the consent agreement where it says donations approval, the swap shop money,
Yep, when they bring the money in.
okay. And so
I-
that's what I
think-
thought needed to be talked about with Sumner, but you're saying it doesn't have to be.
I mean, the discussion should be had on how to. I mean, it can be had. I'm just saying. From the bank account aspect of it and how bills are paid. That's on us. As far as accepting the donations. Collectively, I think last year there was 3 times that they had brought in donations for the swap shop. So it's not like something that you see all the time. But yeah, when they bring in their donations. I'm gonna have to handwrite them a receipt because they always ask for a receipt when they bring them in. Because I will not deposit it until the select board approves it, at which time you would deposit it and then it would be transferred into that bank account.
Just so long as Sumner's aware how.
Yeah. No, I think both towns should understand how it works.
Yeah.
I would welcome them to ask questions on how it works too, because they probably don't know. I don't know the background on 2 of them. The other one, he was a school board director prior to him getting elected as a selectman, so he probably has the most municipal experience, so.
All right, so. We're in the public comment period, unless there's any other business. No, all right. Any public comments?
Peter? Oh, I can stop telling you this. Hold on.
Make sure. Okay. And we don't need an executive session that I'm aware of? No, okay. So I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 7:31 PM.
I will second that.
Thank you. All in favor, Bob, aye.
Celia, aye.
Heather, I.
Sandra, I.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, don't take off. I need you guys to sign this.
Do you have? Copy of the resilience and partnership resolution that we're going to sign?
He sent that to me at the start of the meeting, so I'm going to have to put your signature lines on it and I'll
Can we all just?
Actually, no, if you give me 5 minutes while you all go through these and sign them, I will go add that and have it printed out.
Yeah, we can be.
Well, no, we get it on because you're all in public, so.
Yes, good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Still.
He's in charge of your skeletons on Tilton's, right?
That is all him.
He did a great job.
Every year it's different.
I love it.
It changes day by day. It was different today as yesterday. There's more to be added. See our basement at other times. It's like this weird. Oh, right here. Yeah, thing.
They're off.
Thank you. Wow. I'm not sure what all of this information is, but it was given to me by Judy. So I will make copies of it and share it with everybody.
I have similar.
You have the same.
Well, I don't think it's the same stuff. Judy did give me the priorities that town put forth.
Is this what's important to Buckfield?
It was some time ago.
Is it this?
Yep.
What's important? Okay, so that's here.
So that, the last one doesn't have Sandra's signature, just make sure you pass the one.
Okay. So I'll scan all this in. And send it to everybody. We get some like that. I haven't looked at it. I don't know what it is. When are we all together again?
Next week, right? For the public hearing,
Public hearing.
and then after that, the 14th.
Anybody know what time the trunk or treat is scheduled to begin? 4. At 4.
I'm excited. Rachel, the EMT over there, she's got a big plan. We're gonna come check it out. Decorate the ambulance.
That's good.
Yeah.
Have your kids got all their costumes figured out?
Just the little one hasn't yet. Yeah.
All the people who attended the community Thanksgiving last year reached out to me to ask, is it happening again?
Oh, good.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
this says exactly the same thing as
Yeah, all I did was add the letterhead and
made it pretty.
signatures. I assume I was supposed to put the letterhead in because that's what it said.
Yeah, that's what he's told. That was the plan.
We were just talking about trunk or treat and Halloween.
I can put another notice up there. The trunk or treat being in the town office. I posted, I had posted a few, maybe a week or so ago that, town office is gonna close at 4, because you're starting at 4.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
So could we get together tomorrow and talk about me taking some of this off your plate as far as what's posted?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
that's fine. All right, perfect. You guys all signed the warrant.
Yep.
and then we've got the rest of the
Those are over there. All right, so we're good to go.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Yes.